So late 2008,
Yeah.
the credit crunch, for want of a better expression,
Yes.
happens.
Yeah.
Talk me through it, because you're at the controls. You've got 7 billion assets under management,
Yeah.
and you've got to manage that money for pension funds, for the public, for the rest of it.
Well, it was funny. It was a funny thing because I think it was in the July of 2008. I wrote a little piece and I said, has anybody noticed? But the U.S. housing market is starting to fall to pieces. And I concluded at the bottom of it. Said, doesn't matter. It's just a sort of oddity. I'm sure it'll correct itself and keep on going this, hyperbolic trend which is on right now. So, and then it got worse and worse and worse. And then the market started to behave very strangely, because we thought actually they should be putting up interest rates at this point in the United States. So I had the funds in a particular position which was positioned for rising interest rates, that would benefit clients if that happened, or save them some money anyway. But it wasn't a radical policy, and then some strange things started to happen. And the market started to rise in price. And we were sitting there going, but there's nothing wrong. There's nothing in the economics. Unemployment's fine. All of the indicators are absolutely fine, and yet the markets are doing something completely different here. And this went on for about 2 months. And eventually, taking so much pain in terms of the lost performance, or the opportunity cost of not participating in a rally in the bond market,
Leaving money on the table.
Yeah, I just said, let's cut this and just kind of let's go back to neutral, and kind of, because we don't understand. There's a dynamic here which nobody understands. We're not seeing it. It's not in the data. So good fund managers, what they do at that moment, so they kind of go back to a neutrality and that kind of thing, and they reassess. So I did that. And then one night I was sitting at home, it was about 11 o'clock, and it was in November, and the US bond market, and the long-dated bond, the most volatile one, just started to just do this up. And I'm going, what the hell is this? And I literally am beating my head against the screen, my Bloomberg screen at home, thinking, what am I not seeing? And the next day we found out Lehman's had gone bust. And that was the start of it. But the interesting thing about that was that we thought we had a perfect information set which drove markets, strong econometric vision of what drives markets, bond markets, equity markets, currencies. And in fact, there was something which was completely hidden from us, besides a few people. And what it was the risk managers and Lehman Brothers desperately trying to cut their losses and hiding it as well. But it was a piece of information which was way outside of the econometric view of what drives asset markets.
So when you see people like Bill Gross talking about having to re-educate himself and think totally differently about the bond markets and all the rest of it, do you empathise with that?
Completely. And Bill did run, when he was at PIMCO, the biggest bond fund in the world at the time. Was it $350 billion? No, it was
small change.
Hundreds of billions of dollars in his fund. And Bill, ran a view of the world which was, strongly econometric, and I'm not surprised that recently he's turned around and said, I now live in this kind of topsy-turvy world where none of that works anymore. I mean, I think quite a lot of fund managers have come to this conclusion, but either for commercial reasons or personal reasons or whatever, they simply can't admit it to themselves. And what Bill's done is gone, you know what, everybody, it's okay to turn around and say the distortions of the system now, the near 0% interest rates and negative interest rates in Europe, the extent of quantitative easing, the buying up of bonds and pushing the markets in a direction which has got nothing to do with economics, means that you've got to reassess.